Hi, everybody. Welcome to another week of Wrestling with Wrestling. I'm Steve, and joining me, as always, my co-host, the great Doc Gregory. Doc, how's it going?
You gotta tell you here, Steve, it's gonna be a great show tonight. Yeah! Tonight's Legend of the Week, we got the Public Enemy. Yeah, Public Enemy. What's great about being on this show is you, man. That's gonna be great. So without further ado, let me introduce to you the man that wears the great stripes in the business, Mr. Doc Gregory. Yeah!
Hey Steve, how you doing? Sorry about
Hey,
that.
Doc.
Every now and again, I got to channel the Macho Man. I've done it since I've been a fan of his since I was, when he first onto the scene in the WWF, and I had practiced doing his voice, and my voice has changed throughout the years, and I don't quite have it down as well as I used to, but I still just like to channel him.
You don't have to apologize to me, brother. You look exactly like Macho when you have those glasses on. A little visit from the spirit of the Macho Man. You never know what you're going to get on this.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and jump right into Raw, because talk about a show that could have used a little Macho Man here and there to brighten things up. We are on our way to Night of Champions. Night of Champions is the next pay-per-view for WWE. It's going to take place on Sunday, September 21st. And if anybody gave a shit about Night of Champions, you could say we're on the road to Night of Champions. But we don't say that because nobody really cares. But Raw this week was live from Anaheim, California, and they started things off with what they called a Hall of Fame forum, which basically meant 3 retired wrestlers sitting at a table set up in the ring. Exciting television.
Oh my, it was riveting. It was riveting. I was on the edge of my seat, trying not to fall out of it from falling asleep.
The most exciting part of the whole segment was the entrances of the 3 legends, because everybody got excited. You know, they played Hulk Hogan's music, and he came down, and then Ric Flair came out, and then Shawn Michaels came out. So those were your 3 Hall of Famers for the Hall of Fame forum. And Michael Cole asked them all about what they think about the John Cena versus Brock Lesnar rematch, because it's now official. As we mentioned that we knew it was going to happen last week, but now it's been officially established on TV that the main event of Night of Champions is going to be John Cena versus Brock Lesnar for the title again. And they did a thing with Shawn and Rick where Shawn and Flair both said that Cena doesn't have a chance, that Brock's just going to kill him all over again, and Hulk was sort of the holdout, who was saying, no, he's going to find a way, brother. John Cena's going to find a way, brother, And Shawn and Rick said, come on, Hulk, even you don't believe that,
Well, no, of course Hulk Hogan believes that, because look who you're talking to. The man who could take a beating through a whole match, and then all of a sudden he'll take a couple punches and blow up, and all of a sudden kick your ass. I mean, he is the king of comebacks. I mean, the guy could take
Right.
a royal whoop ass through a whole match, and then just there's the whole blow up point, body slam, boot, leg drop. Hey, you're done. You just got beat by Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Exactly. That's why Hogan thinks that Cena can do it, because Hogan's fucking done it.
Yeah, because John Cena's the top of the company right now, so it's like, I guess in his mind, he's still thinking when he was at top of the company, he could get basically what he wants, but he don't realize that John Cena is almost the anti-Hulk Hogan, because he works with the company, and he's willing to work with the company, and he's willing to put other people over.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So speaking of John Cena himself comes walking out as the Hall of Fame panel continues to bicker with each other about whether or not Cena can beat Brock in the rematch. And Cena comes out, the crowd chants Cena sucks right away. He puts over every member of the Hall of Fame panel. He says that Ric Flair is the greatest, and he's had great times with Ric Flair, and him and Shawn Michaels are friends, and he means a lot to him. And, if there was no Hulk Hogan, there would have been no John Cena. He really, puts all 3 guys over. And then he comes to the match with Brock at SummerSlam. He says that it was an ass whipping. There's no way around it. And however, even though it was totally an ass whipping, and he admits that he got his ass handed to him by Brock Lesnar, and it was totally one-sided, Cena says that when he woke up in the training room after the beating that Brock gave him, his first thought was that he wanted to have another match with Brock. And he said he's going to Night of Champions, and he's not going to beat Brock Lesnar. He's going to beat Brock Lesnar's ass. And that's it. It was a really short promo from Cena. He was only out there for a couple of minutes, which I liked. I liked that they kept it short. But I'm still not really, just from the basis of that promo, I'm not. If I were a fan and I were treating this all as though it were real, I would not be convinced that John Cena was much of a threat to Brock Lesnar.
No, I don't think he's much threat either. I mean, if I took that ass whooping, the first thing I'd have thought of when I got out of the hospital is how in the fuck did my kidneys get up in my throat? I mean, because that's how bad my ass looked. And I don't know. I guess and we'll talk about it later. His match with Bray Wyatt that night. I mean, I guess they're really trying to push this never give up, never surrender type, John Cena guy. And we all know this about John Cena. He's a hard worker, and you can say Cena sucks as much as you want, but he is a fucking workhorse, man. I mean, and time and time again, he's in good matches. Especially, I'd say in 2014, he's had some of the best matches I've ever seen, and I've never really been a John Cena fan, but it's usually who he's facing up against. But John Cena does perform very, very well against any caliber wrestler you throw at him, and that's what I like about him, even though I don't like him. But they're going to try to push him as I think, tougher now and more, grizzled, more on the attack, unlike what he used to be. And I guess that's okay, but that's almost like might as well just turn him heel, which is never going to happen. Never going to happen.
Oh, I agree with you. I don't look for him to turn heel, at least not anytime remotely soon. But like there's a fan theory that I read this past week on some wrestling website that I go to, where somebody floated the idea that Night of Champions, the finish to Night of Champions, is going to be Cena turning heel on Brock and becoming a Paul Heyman guy. I will take fucking 10 consecutive ALS Ice Bucket challenges if that fucking happens. There's no way that happens. That Paul Heyman turns on Brock Lesnar and John Cena turns heel and Cena and Heyman team up and become like a fact. There's no fucking way that happens.
I would go out like a Christian under the reign of Emperor Nero, and I would dip myself in tar and put a wick on my head and go out as a Roman candle.
Yeah, exactly. It's not happening. That's not happening. But yeah, I get. Yeah, they're trying to make Cena seem more aggressive, and we'll talk more about that when we get to the end of the show with the main event, which is advertised as Bray Wyatt versus John Cena. That's our advertised main event for this episode of Raw. But
actually, as soon as I saw that was going to be our main event for the night on paper, I automatically went, oh no. And that's how I felt immediately. I'm like, why would you book that fucking match? It was ridiculous. And we'll talk about that later. But that's at that moment, that's how I felt. And I assumed soon after that I fell asleep because it wasn't catching my interest.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the first match. The first match was Rusev versus Jack Swagger. These two are still going at it. Swagger is still selling the injured ribs. He has his ribs still taped up. The crowd still, the live crowd still seems into this at least a little bit. There was a big time USA chant when the match started. The opening sequence of the match was pretty fast. Swagger controlled it first, and then Rusev took over and kind of stalled outside for a little while. Rusev got back in the ring. Swagger went right back after him, and it all ended up with there was a. Swagger went for a Swagger bomb. Rusev tried to block it with a kick. Swagger caught his foot, transitioned into the Patriot Lock, which was a really cool spot. Rusev made the ropes. He went for the Accolade, but Swagger got him in the Patriot Lock again, and he flipped over and got him for a near fall for a 2 count. And then Rusev really took over and sidekicked Swagger in the gut and just fucking went to work on the ribs for the rest of the match. Just beat him up in the corner, got him down on the mat, just kept stomping him. The referee kept backing him off, and he always kept going back and stomping on the ribs. And eventually, the referee just stopped the match, just decided that Swagger with the injured ribs couldn't go on any further. So Rusev won the match via referee stoppage. So it's two times in a row that Rusev has beaten Swagger, but Swagger has not actually been pinned or submitted either time. Both times it's been the referee having to step in and stop the fight because Swagger is being beaten but refuses to give up. So,
which is a double-edged sword for Jack Swagger. Yes, he's not being pinned, and that and his ability, his matches lately have been pretty top-notch, which is reminding people how good Jack Swagger really is. He's showing us now more ways he can catch people in the Patriot Lock. I guess he's been working with Rusev enough to counter some of his moves. But it's like Randy Orton in the RKO. I mean, it's nice to see where he can put you in that damn thing in a moment's notice, and you didn't see it coming. And so he's gotten a lot of good TV time lately, and I'm happy about that because it seems like Jack Swagger has gotten a push. I don't think the WWE wants to make him look weak by pinning him, but they also can't really make Rusev look weak because I think that man's got just with his persona, his gimmick, his ability, his look. He's got a big future ahead of him. Rusev does. So I mean, I love the gimmick myself. I'm not a Putin supporter, but I don't take it for anything that it's worth. I mean, I love the shit out of Nikolai Volkov, and I like the Rusev gimmick, and me, Aluna Lana. I tell you. That's an old caveman reference. If you ever seen the movie Caveman with Ringo Starr, it's like Atuka Luna Lana. Zug zug.
Yeah, I like the gimmick too. I really like Rusev. We've talked on the show before about how he's sort of like a throwback to a wrestler from the 60s or the 70s, just a big fucking Hulk. I mean, Nikolai Volkov actually isn't a bad comparison, not just for the Russian thing, but because they have a similar type, Mm-hmm. And it's almost like the feud with Rusev and Swagger has become slightly a victim of its own success, because I feel like Swagger was originally turned, I feel like, just to give Rusev somebody to fight, but it's really done a lot for Swagger. I mean, people are really getting into him now, and he's really getting a chance to shine in these matches. And so it's like, well, you don't want to kill off Swagger because, he's actually been raised up quite a bit by this. And it looks like they're getting ready to move him off into another program with Bo Dallas. So you don't want to kill Swagger, but at the same time, Rusev is the guy that this feud was started to elevate in the first place, so you got to keep him looking strong too. So, yeah, it's a double-edged sword, but having Rusev get to look dominant and win the matches, but doing it in such a way where Swagger seems tough because he refuses to stay down or he refuses to give up, that leaves a little bit of shine on him.
There's one thing really missing from this match, though, that I think really should have been there for a continuation of storylines. Is I would have, after the match had been stopped, you'd had Lana go to Rusev crush. He gets back on Jack Swagger, starts beating him up. Mark Henry comes running down and makes the save because what the fuck was that all about last week? I didn't see any mention of that.
That's true. There was nothing about that at all. That was odd. They had the Big Show versus Henry versus the Wyatt family stuff later in the show. Big Show and Henry versus the Wyatt family. But yeah, the stuff between Mark Henry and Rusev from last week was like it never even happened. That was weird because that was kind of a big deal last week. It was, that was a very prominently presented segment.
Yeah, I think it had a lot of potential, and with Jack Swagger moving on to a feud with Bo Dallas, which I think would be awesome. It would have been a good time to feed Mark Henry into the feud with Rusev and just keep it going. Don't take a breather, just keep it going.
Yeah, I agree. I thought, which I figured that's what they were doing. I kind of thought that this week we would see both of those programs start to take shape. Instead of going back to Rusev and Swagger, I figured we would be seeing, Swagger and Bo and Rusev and Henry start to progress, but we didn't really see that.
I'm still thinking Jack Swagger's going to become a Bo Lever.
They could form a tag team.
Mm-hmm.
They could be the real Bo Levers. Or the Bo Americans. The Bo Americans!
That would be awesome. Bo's good, but he's not making waves good.
Yeah.
So that's the only problem with him, and I think that it's kind of like Adam Rose. I don't want to see him regulated back to NXT. I'd rather see him on Raw. I think he has a lot of potential. And a tag team with Jack Swagger would be perfect. Absolutely. And they could be Bo Levers.
Yeah, yeah. I think the problem with Bo and with Adam Rose as well is it just seems like with those gimmicks, they didn't have a plan B for either guy. Like Adam Rose showed up on Raw, he did his thing, it kind of fell flat, and it's like they didn't have anything else for him to do. Like they didn't have a contingency plan. They didn't sit down and say, okay, we got Adam Rose, we're bringing him up, we're gonna debut him on Raw this week. What do we do next month if this doesn't work? If nobody gives a shit about him, what's our plan? And it seems like they didn't have anything for that. They just assumed that everybody was going to love it, and when everybody didn't love it, they were just kind of like, oh shit.
Maybe we dropped the ball from Leo Kruger when we did that shit. Maybe that would have worked. Who knows? Maybe made him a great wrestler named Leo Kruger, where he's really from, and it dropped the whole party in bullshit, because that's exactly what it is. It's bullshit.
Yeah. I kind of like the Leo Kruger gimmick. I mean, I thought that Adam Rose would be more successful than it has been. I mean, when I first saw it on NXT, I thought, oh, this thing's going to be fucking crazy on Raw, and nobody really gave a shit about it. But I thought he was good as Leo Kruger too. So I don't know. Next match on Raw is Cesaro versus Rob Van Dam. These guys have been fighting each other a lot lately, and this match is for the #1 contendership to the U.S. title.
Right. So we get to see Sheamus come down and do a little bit of commentating.
Oh,
yes, but we don't get to see the United States title actually defended. But this is coming, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, fella, it is coming.
I mean, I feel bad complaining about it because I'm always bitching about how the secondary titles don't mean anything and nobody cares about them. And now here they are having a match to determine like a #1 contender. But at the same time, it feels weird to be like nobody gives a shit about the U.S. title. Nobody even remembers who has the fucking thing for months, and all of a sudden, here are these two top guys, in my opinion, in terms of their talent, two top guys, fighting over who gets to challenge for this fucking meaningless belt that nobody gives a shit about. It just feels like they go so wildly, like from one end to the other, for weeks at a time. It's like, do we even have a U.S. title? Who the fuck is the U.S. champion? And then all of a sudden, it's like, #1 contender.
And I don't get that shit, #1 contender, because don't they have the Power 25 rankings over on their website? Like, they rank the wrestlers. Yeah. So right there would tell you who the fucking #1 contender would be for that belt. Who's doing great. And in my personal opinion, Cesaro, who I love, hasn't been doing quite as good as Rob Van Dam lately, who won a pay-per-view match and then the Monday Night Raw match. And that's big winnings right there. So he's higher up on the totem pole than Cesaro should be. So that's a no-brainer. Why are we wrestling for #1 contendership? Someone should automatically be a #1 contendership. You're just filling the void. But I did enjoy the void. It was a good match.
Yeah, I thought it was a good match too.
There was a video. I guess Cesaro was on. I just saw it today. I guess he was doing some filming for the 2K15 game that's going to be coming out, and they had him bench pressing like a deadlift. And if you have not seen this video, they may have it on the website, WWE website, but man, I mean, this thing, I don't think you could pack any more of the heaviest weights on a dumbbell, and he just deadlifted that thing, because when he brought it down, he just dropped it on the floor like weightlifters do, because they don't actually respect the concrete floor, and they just drop the shit.
Right.
But it like bounced, and I mean, it made a loud clank. That was a lot of weight, and it just didn't look like his body could have been able to lift that much weight, but it was insane. I'm telling you. You got to check that video out. Yeah, I mean, it's real quick.
He's strong. I mean, he's crazy strong. You wouldn't think to look at him because he looks really lithe and athletic, but he is a strong son of a bitch.
He's like Popeye strong.
Yes. He eats his spinach before every match. And his little corncob pipe spins around and steam comes out of his ears. Wow! Anyway, Cesaro wins the match. It is a pretty good little match, and Cesaro wins. He knocks RVD off the top rope and hits the neutralizer in a hurry. Like really, just gets right on top of him and hits him with the finish, which I thought was really cool. Mm-hmm. I like it when they wrestle like they're trying to fucking win the match, And he got the pin, so Cesaro pins Rob Van Dam. So he is now the #1 contender for the prestigious United States Championship. And after the match, he went to the commentary table where Sheamus was doing guest commentary, and he picks up the U.S. title and kind of looks at it and then throws it in Sheamus's face, and they kind of back each other up the aisle. Sheamus is sort of advancing on him like, "Oh, you want to start something, fella?" You know.
I forgot to tell you, I'm a Celtic warrior, and I'm going to actually back off with this fight, you little pussy.
I know Sheamus, he loves to fight, but the guy fucking picks up his championship and throws it in his face, and he just kind of laughs at him.
Yeah. That's a throwdown if I've ever seen one.
Like, you're like 300 pounds, you're like a fucking oak tree, and you claim you love to fight. Why aren't you beating the shit out of this guy?
Mm-hmm. I'd have chased him all the way back to the curtain.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you just smile. It's like, I'll get you. Don't worry about it.
I guess Sheamus smiles too much. I think I said that a couple weeks ago. Sheamus just, even whether they want to turn him heel or leave him as a babyface, it doesn't really matter to me. But he smiles way too much. I mean, you know, and especially for a guy who supposedly just loves fighting people. Well, quit smiling. Start fucking hitting some motherfuckers.
His commentating was somewhat heel too, because he was bragging about his championship. Like, that's something a heel does. I mean, commentators will remark on how you've won that twice. You don't do that because you're just happy to be the champion. You don't reflect and brag about your accomplishments. That's something a babyface doesn't do.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And then Cesaro, who is still a heel, wins the match. So you have Sheamus healing on commentary, getting set up to work with Cesaro, who is a heel. It felt kind of weird. I don't know. Maybe this was. I haven't read rumors or anything or reports from backstage for this show, but maybe this was one of those shows where it was like totally rewritten, like 10 minutes before showtime. You know, you hear those stories every once in a while, like, oh, the script for Raw was rewritten right up until it went on the air.
There was a report on something that was supposed to happen at Raw. Yeah. I was reading it on the WWE Inc., so I'll look that up while we continue to talk. Yeah,
I don't know. There are things about this show, about the booking of this show, and how certain guys were positioned. It felt kind of like either they weren't paying attention or they were just like, you know what, fuck it, just get out there and do something, you know. Speaking of which, this was a thing that puzzled me. The next match was Natalya versus Paige, which is a rematch from last week when Natalya won the match. Their match this week, somehow, for some reason, is still a non-title match. So it used to be that you beat the champion in a non-title match, and that got you a title shot. And I thought that was stupid, because why would you want to beat your champion? But nonetheless, that's how they always, for the last couple of years, that's the only thing they've ever been able to think of to set up title feuds, is to have the champion lose a non-title match. That happened last week. Now this week, they have the exact same match, not for the title. And even more mind-boggling, the champion wins the match clean. So why not just book it as a title match?
Well, now you have the third match, so you have to have a third one. There's one, they won one. Natalya won the first one, and Paige won the second one, so you have to have that third one. And the fortunate thing about that is you have AJ Lee in the way. Now, not only is Natalya getting another match and then losing that match mostly disappointing, but there was a wardrobe malfunction that happened during this match, and WWE and them sly damn cameramen were able to cut away just in time, so we missed it. And I'm like, this is for you, WWE cameraman. this is why I love live TV, and you fucked it.
Hey, come on, it's PG. It's rated TV PG. They can't be showing fucking wardrobe malfunctions.
PG for me stands for puppies galore.
You're like Attitude Era Jerry Lawler.
Speaking of Attitude Era, you can catch the reemergence. It's Attitude Week on WWE, which they were selling to us on Raw the other night, and not so much the $9.99. That died down a little bit, which was nice. It didn't get so much of it this week.
It was real nice. They, instead of just telling you that it exists and that it costs $9.99, they were actually giving you a reason to want to watch it, which is I agree. I thought that was a lot better. I mean, they should be selling the network, but they should be giving people who don't have it reasons to watch it. And I think, yeah, you're right. I'm glad you brought that up. This week they actually did a pretty good job of that, I thought. They talked about how they're going to show Attitude Era episodes of Raw on the network all week. They talked about how they have the first year, I think, or 2 years of Monday Nitro going up.
First 100 hours.
First 100 hours, yeah. Yeah, the first 100 hours of Monday Nitro going up, I think, next week. And then plus the Monday Night War documentary series is up. So, yeah, it's, they're actually saying, hey, here's some really cool stuff on the network that you can watch. Maybe that's a reason why you would want to buy it instead of just beating people over the head with how fucking much it costs. Yeah, I thought they did a much better job with that this week.
I agree.
Yeah, so anyway, this match, this Divas match, Paige wins, and then AJ comes down, and while Paige is distracted by AJ skipping around, Natalya kind of gets a little revenge after the match and knocks Paige over with a clothesline. The crowd still chants CM Punk whenever AJ comes out, which still makes me shake my head. It's such a shitty thing to do. And AJ is, I guess she's doing psychological warfare on Paige, is what this is supposed to be. She calls Paige her little English muffin, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, it was good. That was a good remark. I like that. And the fans liked it too. They respond to it. So I could see this becoming a chant toward Paige.
Oh yeah.
English muffin. English muffin. Exactly.
Totally. Yeah. So AJ gives Paige a hug, and Paige looks kind of creeped out by it, and then AJ kisses her hand, and that makes Paige seem even weirder about the whole thing. So they're still going with this feud, and they're still going with playing mind games with each other, I guess. Which, if it leads to them having another match and it's a decent match, which it very well could be because both women are really talented, then I guess that's good. But the feud itself is kind of nutty to me.
Yeah, this is what you would really call a civil war.
Yes.
They go out there and nothing's going to happen. They're best of friends, but we're going to fight.
Yeah. I don't know. Next segment was a eulogy for Dean Ambrose, because Dean Ambrose had his head smashed into cinder blocks last week. Incredibly, he did not die, which is what should have happened.
And walked away from the hospital. He refused.
Yes.
He refused treatment and disappeared.
He's gone.
And nobody called the police.
and it's funny. It's how the internet wrestling community works. You just knew that this was going to happen. As soon as they posted that on the WWE website last week about how Dean Ambrose, walked away and nobody's seen him since, everybody on all the fucking wrestling blogs I read were like Cactus Jack. Because WCW did a storyline with Cactus Jack in like 1994, I think, where he had amnesia after he lost a match with Vader, and they found him like 2 months later, like wandering around in Cleveland, and he didn't remember who he was. So they were like, "Oh, Dean Ambrose, they're doing Cactus Jack lost in Cleveland with Dean Ambrose." But yeah, so Kane introduces Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins comes out. He declares himself to have been the leader of the Shield. He says that it's too bad that Dean Ambrose didn't know his place, and that it's very likely that we will never see Dean Ambrose again. And Seth says, "I'm the one who created the Shield, and I'm the one who has destroyed it." And before he gets too much further, the other former member of the Shield, Roman Reigns, comes walking out through the crowd, and he marches straight down like he is all business, man. Just fucking straight down through the crowd, jumps over the barricade, whips Kane's ass, gets in the ring, brawls around with Rollins, picks up the podium, the lectern that they were given the eulogy from, and fucking throws it at Rollins, hits him in the face with it, and it looks like he's going to spear him, but then Kane pulls Rollins outside, and they announce a little while after this that there's going to be a handicap match between these guys later tonight, Kane and Seth Rollins teaming up against Roman Reigns. So looks like after beating Randy Orton at SummerSlam, Roman Reigns' next program, just judging by this, is going to be with his old teammate Seth Rollins, which I guess kind of makes sense because Dean apparently is going to be out at least for the rest of the month while he's filming this movie. So gives Roman something to do, gives Seth something to do. They know each other pretty well. Hopefully it'll be a decent match. What do you think?
I was wondering, is there a chance that we will be able to see even more furniture by the end of Raw in the ring?
Yes.
No, I thought the eulogy was really good, and Kane introduced Seth, and he's standing there, and obviously Kane is kind of is really he's taking the role of Seth's bodyguard. I like that I like that role with Kane. He's there to protect Seth. The laugh that he gave after he bowed his head, I thought was really good. When they showed him going through the cinder blocks, and it's just good news to know that at least Dean Ambrose isn't dead from what could have been a very fatal accident, no, intentional, purposeful accident, because
Yeah.
Seth did that shit on purpose.
Right.
But Roman Reigns, yeah, I think that's a good program. I was hoping to move that direction, gives Roman something to do, because I don't want to see him hooking up with Randy Orton anymore. Randy Orton needs to move on. I definitely can see Randy Orton taking on a more of a heelish, but someone that the fans can get behind role. I think he's on the verge. I think really he's always been on the verge of that. If they just keep him the way he is, with slight catering to the fans, just do what he does against heels, he'd be a babyface. I mean, without even having to act like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's what happened when he was doing the Viper thing a couple years ago. Mm-hmm. He just kind of naturally turned babyface just because the fans just started cheering for him, and then I think they screwed it up by having him cater to the fans too much. Like, they changed that character too much to make him even too much of a babyface. Whereas if he had just kept doing the same thing and been an asshole, but been an asshole against heels, I think it would have been great, because I think that's what people wanted.
Well, this has the potential to be an interesting feud to watch, because obviously in the feud between Seth and Dean, Seth pretty much came out on top, at least on TV, every single time. That's not going to cannot be the same scenario when it comes to Roman Reigns, who they obviously got in store for a huge push. So, like, you got two pushes that are colliding at this point. Dean's push would have also collided if he didn't have the movie to do. So this will be interesting to see which way the feud goes. I see it as being a lot of exactly what they did to Dean Ambrose, which is fucking him over. Or no contest or shit like that, or running away like the way Honky Tonk Man used to keep his Intercontinental title.
Yeah, you're right, because they can't have. Obviously, they have big plans for Roman, so he has to look strong and probably end up coming out on top. But at the same time, they invested that Money in the Bank case in Seth, and really they're so thin on top in their roster that really anybody who's anywhere near the main event, they really can't afford to have and look weak, because they have so few guys that are even close to that spot. And Seth is one of those guys that I wouldn't say he's ready to be like a main event guy all by himself quite yet, but he's up near that level. And they can't afford to have Roman just come in and fucking smash him, make him look like a punk, because then they have one less guy who's ready to be a top heel. Yeah, so it is interesting that the two guys that they clearly are hoping to be pushed up to that main event level pretty soon, having to hook it up together. But you got to figure Roman's going to come out with the better end of it.
You never know. They might halt Seth's push at the point where he puts, obviously the Money in the Bank case does him no good right now.
No.
So what if some kind of match came up later down the future, a couple months, just a month or two, while he's wrestling Roman Reigns, where he puts the Money in the Bank case on the line, and Roman gets this, because now Roman's got it, he can face Brock Lesnar.
Hey, there you go. That could be something. I kind of thought that maybe they'll still get around to this at some point when Dean comes back, but I sort of thought that the blow off to Seth versus Dean would have been something for the case. Maybe they'll still get to that at some point.
Yes, it could happen. But Brock Lesnar would destroy Dean Ambrose. In the ring together, they don't really even compare. It really looks like a one-sided fight, and it would be a one-sided fight. Roman Reigns stands a better chance, and he'd look better. He'd look better standing up to Brock, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. So I'll be keeping my eye on that one.
Yeah. Let's keep moving on Raw here. The next match is a title match that resulted from a non-title match last week. So they pulled the trigger on the title match for the tag title match, but not for the Divas title match. WWE Tag Team title match, the Usos defending against Goldust and Stardust, or as they were constantly referred to by the commentators, Gold and Stardust, because I guess they don't want to say dust 2 times. It was a decent match, but it ended up with a countout. Stardust wound up outside with Jey Uso and got inside right before the 10 count. So Goldust and Stardust won the match by countout, but didn't win the titles. And after the match, Goldust got on the microphone and accused the Usos of getting counted out on purpose to screw them out of their title shot. And Goldust and Stardust attacked the Usos, I guess turning heel.
Yeah, that shocked me, actually. I didn't see that one. When stuff like that happens, sometimes you can see a subtle change beginning. You know where it's going, but this one, it just came out of nowhere, which I loved, and I think they're going to make great heels.
Yeah, I think because Goldust is a great heel anyway. We know that Goldust is a great heel from back in the day.
I mean, Cody Rhodes is too.
Absolutely, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see Stardust as a heel because it seems like even though he's only been that Stardust gimmick for just a couple of months, it seems like he's so into it and he's just so natural with it that it feels like he's been that for a long time, even though he hasn't. And it'll be interesting to see him do the heel version of that, because at this point, up to now, he's been sort of like just kind of a flighty, weirdo babyface with it. It'd be interesting to see if we can bring a little more edge to it. Next was really probably my favorite part of the show. And again, it was a pre-recorded interview with Brock Lesnar. I love these segments with Brock and Paul Heyman because, again, they're presented like it's legit. Like Brock is a real athlete. He's a real fighter. He's not like a pro wrestler, a sports entertainer. He's a big bruiser. He's a badass motherfucker who hurts people and wins fights. And he's sitting down with Heyman and talking to the camera. And he talks about how beating John Cena at SummerSlam was his greatest accomplishment. He hit Cena with the F5 early and gave him a chance to stay down. But then Brock says Cena got back up because of his no-give-up bullshit, which I thought was a great... everybody puts over Cena for the never-give-up thing, and Brock is the guy who is just not impressed by it at all. Who's just like, yeah, his no-give-up bullshit. That did him a lot of favors. I thought that was great. And he says that he's going to put, at Night of Champions, he's going to put Cena down and not let him up, and he's not going to feel bad about it. And it's not just going to be John Cena's last match, but Night of Champions is going to be his last night in the universe. I thought this segment was terrific.
Yeah, Brock, and I believe everything Brock says, honestly. I mean, and backed up by Paul Heyman. I mean, I truly feel, and let's get real. If the gloves ever came off, Brock would manhandle the shit out of John Cena. I mean, he would literally pick him up and give him 16 German suplexes, and not because John Cena let him do it.
Exactly.
But I truly believe this character, and I never really liked Brock Lesnar. I thought my personal opinion on Brock Lesnar is an asshole. He's a huge freaking asshole. He don't appreciate the fans. He don't appreciate his competitors. He don't appreciate the management. And that's exactly what they pinned on him. That's exactly the character that he's got down, and that's exactly what they let him do. And it's perfect because it fits and it's real. So I feel like everything they say, that's what Brock Lesnar is going to do, and they need to let Brock Lesnar do that because it pushes him as a legitimate badass. It also brings a little bit more. It brings something different to that world title that we haven't seen. I haven't really seen in a long time, which is like a truly dominant freaking superstar that you're not going to get that belt off of.
Yeah, and I would like for that to be what it is. I have a bad feeling that this is only gonna last another couple of weeks, and then Cena's gonna beat him for that belt at Night of Champions. I just have a really bad feeling that that's what's gonna happen, and that's gonna be terrible. But for now, yeah, it's the sort of thing that the WWE has never really done before, which is have a really truly dominant heel champion. I mean, even when they had guys like Triple H. Who were heels and would hold the title for a while, they never felt like, they were unbeatable. I mean, Triple H would win most of his matches, but he never felt like Brock Lesnar feels like whether it's wrestling or whether it's a real fight. Like if anybody fucks with him, it's lights out. You know, he feels like a different type of guy. And, you know, after he fucking threw Cena around at SummerSlam, they could leave the belt on him for the rest of the year and just have him come in every couple of months for pay-per-views. He wouldn't even have to wrestle every month.
Yep.
And just have him do the same thing. Just have him fucking kill everybody. I mean, build up, pick another guy, pick like Mark Henry or Big Show or somebody, build somebody like the great babyface Hope, build him up as like, you know, oh, this is the guy who's going to beat Brock, you know, build him up as like a fucking killer and feed him to Brock and Brock kills him in 5 minutes. You know, I mean, they could do that kind of thing and make Brock into just a legendary monster heel. And then finally when Roman Reigns or whoever finally beats him, then you've got a hero. Then you've got the guy who beat the guy who nobody could beat. You know, but I don't think that's what they're going to do. But
I have to.
I would like to hope.
I don't think Cena's going to get back, and I'll stand by that even to this into the next pay-per-view. I just don't feel like it's time to hand it back to Cena. The ball has been taken from Cena, and I like this. This reminds me, as a comparison, it's like when Mike Tyson first burst on the scene. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it should be, at least for, you know, I mean, he lasted a couple good years, and you remember buying those pay-per-views back then, you'd be so freaking pissed off because he knocked people out in the first round. That's how good Mike Tyson was. And that's how good I think Brock Lesnar is. And obviously he can't go out there and give you a 1-minute match, but he should be so dominant in every match he does, and they should not really go over 10 minutes. I don't care what they are. They should never go over 10 minutes because he should be able to kick your ass in that amount of time.
I agree completely. I mean, yeah, you're right, because they have pay-per-view buyer rates to worry about. They don't want to piss off their fans any more than they already have. I mean, they can't just have Brock go out and kill somebody in a minute. But if money was no object, or if they weren't worried about that, I would absolutely book a match to go like that. I would just pick one off-month pay-per-view event, you know, maybe like the December pay-per-view, and have the main event be Brock Lesnar. Just, you know, build up a babyface that month as like a really, you know, top level babyface, and have Brock just fucking kill him in, you know, like 3 or 4 moves. I mean, just fucking murder him, and that's it. And have everybody just be like, holy shit, did they just run a pay-per-view with like a 2-minute main event? Oh my god, that's what I would do. And, you know, yeah, you're right. They probably would never do that because, you know, they have to send the people home happy. They don't want people to feel like they're ripped off with like a 2-minute wrestling match for a main event. But man, you know, maybe they could throw Brock a couple extra $100,000 and do that on an episode of Raw or something. You know, just have him just fucking murder somebody.
Oh yeah, like Kofi Kingston. Kofi's down there and he's cutting a promo or something like that, and Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman want to come down, and Kofi gets a little, you know, brass. Gets a little huffy with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar just kills him and sends him to the hospital that night. And I do mean literally, by WWE standard, sends him out on a stretcher to the hospital, and we don't see him for a couple of weeks. But that's what he needs to do. Just be with guys that you're not doing anything with right now, and I don't. And speaking of not doing anything with this black group between Big E and Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, it's on again, off again, on again, off again, because I'm reading the live reports and I can't tell. It's like the week that Nikki Bella turned heel. Live show, she was still doing babyface stuff. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either.
It's just I know it's sampling and seeing what the fans will like, and if they don't like it, that's what your live shows are for. Is to sample that shit, and when it's ready for TV, then you put it on TV. But you know, that's what great comedians do. They go around to piss-ass towns, and George Carlin did it when he came to this town. He had notes, and he broke out his notes, and he was reading from them. He was reading jokes, and he explained to us this is what comedians do: is they go around to these towns and they try out their materials, and by the time it's time to do the special Raw or the pay-per-view, you got all your shit down, and it's going to be a great show.
Yeah, right. Doing that kind of thing at house shows is fine, but yeah, you know, and honestly, until you just brought that up, I had completely forgot about that Xavier Woods faction with Big E and Kofi. Because they haven't really mentioned it. It's another thing that it's like they just completely dropped it. They're like, oh fuck this. I mean, guys, you have there's like a dozen people who are employed to write these fucking shows. not you can't you introduce like a group of 3 guys and you just completely fucking forget about it. I don't know.
I don't know if it's just a touchy subject, whether it rings a little bit of truth when I say that WWE is racist, and a lot of people say that they don't give black people, especially really dark black people, a fair shake. I just don't get it. I mean, it's insulting my intelligence that you don't give it some kind of try, or is it because that MVP really called you out and said ripping off TNA, which is something that WWE doesn't want to ever be considered doing, is ripping off TNA, because TNA is the follower.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, and I don't know. I mean, if they're worried about people thinking that they're racist, one thing they probably shouldn't do is introduce a stable of 3 African-American wrestlers, have them on TV for 2 weeks, and then fucking just take them off TV with no explanation. That's the kind of shit that makes them seem racist, because they don't use the black performers that they have. I mean, that it's not just that they don't have racist gimmicks. They don't have black guys coming out like with racist gimmicks, but it just feels like you have these really talented black wrestlers on your show, and they never get to do anything. And even when it seems like you're setting them up to do something, they do something for like a week and then they're fucking gone. Mm-hmm. Speaking of people who are talented and deserve to have something to do, but never actually have anything to do, the next match was a non-title match. Dolph Ziggler, the Intercontinental Champion, which I really love, versus The Miz, the guy that he won the title from, except The Miz comes out before the match and announces that he will not be working this match. It will actually be his stunt double, played by Damien Sandow, or Damien Mizdow, as he is announced. And Damien comes out dressed in Miz's gear with that fucking stupid robe and everything. And he ends up he wrestles the match with Dolph. Dolph wins with the zigzag while Miz is on commentary, and the announcers and Miz are just kind of cracking jokes the whole time. So Sandow gets a match on Raw, but he gets it as a stunt double for another wrestler, and the announcers barely even pay attention to the match. So the inexplicable poor treatment of Damien Sandow continues.
But again, at least he's on TV, and he was able to wrestle it wasn't a squash.
That's true.
If you go out there and you perform and you give us a good match, it doesn't matter if you win or lose. You entertain me, and you did. That was a really good match, and I was happy. I was at least satisfied this week that I got to see Damien do something besides besides coming out in a really ridiculous outfit, just doing the whole heel burning down the town as best you can, and have the hometown guy come out and squash you. Right. So yeah, it was nice to see him in action against Dolph Ziggler, who, as you and I will tell, Dolph is a great performer, and I see a reemergence of the Intercontinental Championship here.
Yeah, boy, I hope so. Dolph is the guy they can do it with, as the underdog babyface guy who goes in there and fucking claws out a win and has a great match. I would love to see him booked off that way for the next couple of months. It would do wonders for him. It would do wonders for the Intercontinental title. Make that like the fucking workhorse title once again, like it used to be back in the day. Next is the reconciliation of the Bella Twins, supposedly. Jerry Lawler is in the ring. Leave it to Jerry Lawler to get the job to to moderate a segment with both Bella Twins. He just wanted to be right there in between them. Nikki Bella comes out, and there was additional furniture in the ring. There was another segment with furniture in the ring, which I think makes 3 for the show. And Nikki comes out. There are 2 chairs for the Bellas to sit in, and Nikki takes her chair and drags it like all the way across the ring away from Bree's chair, which I thought was kind of funny. And Bree comes out, and they immediately start fighting with each other. And Bree starts first, and Bree talks about how Nikki stabbed her in the back. And she apologizes to Nikki because she's like, I had no idea when I left that Stephanie was going to take it all out on you, and blah blah blah. Nikki doesn't buy that. She says it's a load of crap. She refuses to accept Bree's apology. Bree had mentioned that their mother had an ultrasound before they were born where it looked like they were holding hands in the womb. And Nikki said, maybe it's not that we were holding hands. Maybe it's that you were just holding me back like you always do.
Which is clever.
Which was pretty funny. Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty funny. She talks about Brie and Daniel Bryan, her troll-faced husband. She she runs down the fans for having pathetic twin fantasies, which I thought was pretty funny. The fans and your pathetic twin fantasies. She talks about Brie stealing all her boyfriends when they were young, which Brie tearfully denies. Brie is crying at this point. Like, that's not true. I didn't steal your boyfriends. And then finally Nikki gets around to what I thought should have been the reasoning for her heel turn from the very beginning, which is that Brie abandoned her after she quit, and Nikki ended up having to fight 3 and 4-on-1 handicap matches. I'm glad that they actually finally mentioned that. Because that to me was
took you 3 weeks to write it in, but good going, writers.
Yeah, because that's the reason. That's the reason you set up for the whole thing. That's why it makes sense. And finally, she mentions it. So good for you.
And Stephanie actually fed that little fish, right on TV. She said that something about Nikki holding or Brie holding Nikki back, but then it was never mentioned again, other than Stephanie actually saying it.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, this all ends up with. I have to mention also that Jerry Lawler tries to step in at one point, and Nikki says, "Stay out of it, old man," and like shoves him out and slaps him. And she pushes Brie over. Brie's sitting in one of the chairs, and she pushes her over and jumps on her and starts, slapping her. And Lawler and some referees pull her off, and they drag Nikki away as she screams, "I have no sister! You're dead to me! You're dead to me!"
Mm-hmm.
That
was a whoop ass. She had a hold of that girl's hair and was not letting go. I was loving that, and I was like, now that's a lady's whoop ass. That's how women will fight, right there. And I was digging that. I thought it was really good.
I thought I liked the ending. I liked the visual of Nikki being dragged off, screaming, "You're dead to me." I thought that was great. But everything where they had to talk, I thought was terrible. I called it bad promo theater in my notes because, when they actually started getting physical with each other and were fighting and scrapping, I thought that was good. But when they're having to give promos and act like they're crying and they're upset, that was fucking terrible. But it had a strong finish, I thought.
But she wishes that Brie would have been aborted.
Yeah, and that for some reason didn't get Brie to fucking knock her on her ass.
Yeah,
that's a really fucked up thing to say to your sister.
Exactly.
Imagine if you had if your brother said to you, especially if you had a twin brother, and your twin brother said to you, "Man, I wish that mom had fucking aborted you." That's some harsh shit.
Mm-hmm.
That's some really harsh shit to say to somebody, and Brie's just like, come on, Brie, fucking knock her in the mouth. That's a fucked up thing she said to you. Oh well, they're doing. I guess they're doing like the Brett versus Owen Hart thing, right? Where Brie doesn't want to fight. Brie refuses to fight.
I mentioned that on Facebook of how even more nostalgic I was feeling this week when it came to referencing the whole Owen versus Brett thing, because I remember time and time again Owen would just get up in Brett's face and would want to fight him, and it took a while before Brett would come around to say he actually was going to accept the match and fight Owen. And this is where I get a little nostalgic, because it reminds me of that. Because even Nikki telling about the differences and how Brie thinks she's better. I mean, still even that I'm remembering. It's like, you were better in school than me, and mom and dad always liked you. I gave you everything. I got nothing.
That was great. All of that Brett versus Owen stuff back in the day was awesome. I agree. I loved all of that stuff. Let me see what. Oh, and I guess that reminds me of when that Brett versus Owen feud was happening. Jerry Lawler was on commentary back then too, and of course Jerry Lawler hated Bret Hart, but he loved Owen because back then Jerry was a heel. And of course, he thought Owen was like the greatest thing ever. And Bret Hart was I remember he told a story. I think it was during their match at WrestleMania 10, the fucking awesome match that Bret and Owen had to open WrestleMania 10, where Jerry Lawler said that when they were kids, even though Owen was the younger brother, when they were kids, Owen used to be the one to look out for Bret Like when the kids would pick on Brett in school, it was Owen who would beat up the bullies and look after Brett because, Brett was just so fucking worthless. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, Jerry's his wealth of lies when it comes to it's kind of almost like Jesse Ventura. Jesse Ventura was good at doing that, to inflate a heel's persona, as you tell a little bit lies about them in their past hell. I mean, it's professional wrestling. Everything's lying.
Yeah, exactly. Just fucking. That would be the fun thing about being a pro wrestling announcer, is if you couldn't think of anything legit, you could just make something the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Because who cares? It's all a work anyway.
You gotta watch it in the WWE though, because if you say something clever, it won't be yours. The WWE will trademark that shit, and you'll never be able to do it again in any promotion you'll ever work at.
Exactly. Or you'll say it once, and then they'll tell you to say it every fucking time. Mm-hmm. Like how Jim Ross all of a sudden went from being, one of the greatest play-by-play guys ever to the guy who just said slobberknocker all the time. Because they're like, oh, slobberknocker, people thought that was funny when you said that. Say that again. In fact, say that every fucking match.
What's the other one that he's famous for? And people actually mock this one where he always went, Stone Cold, Stone Cold, Stone Cold, and everybody will mock that and do something different, but you'll get the 3 JR rants.
My favorite Jim Ross call, and we make fun of this all the time with some of my other wrestling fan friends, like Jason Jarman, who stops by our Facebook group and is an old pal of mine. We always make fun of Jim Ross saying, that man has a family! When the guy with the heel is like fucking killing somebody, like, damn it! That man's got a family! Oh, I love it.
Who he never sees.
Right, because he's on the road as a wrestler. And they're watching this right now.
He's got a family back home to work for and pay for so they can have a good living without him.
Right. That man has a family who have an awesome life because he's making a shit ton of money working for WWE and he's never home. So they don't have to fuck around with him, but they get all the money. Yeah. Next on the show was the Seth Rollins and Kane versus Roman Reigns handicap match. This didn't really last very long. Reigns kind of did his usual thing. Kane and Rollins took over after Reigns kind of got off to a hot start. Reigns was starting his comeback when Rollins attacked him with the Money in the Bank briefcase to draw the DQ, so Roman Reigns won the match by DQ. And then after the match is the real point of the segment, when Seth and Kane teamed up to beat down Rollins, and Kane revealed another stack of cinder blocks. I guess that's the benefit of being the director of operations, is you have the authority to put fucking stacks of cinder blocks next to the ring, and nobody will say shit to you about it. Hey, Kane, what are you putting those cinder blocks down there next to the table for? Shut up, mind your own business. Okay.
I was wondering why your bumper was tracking when you came into the garage this morning.
Exactly. It looks like, and they're setting Roman up for a curb stomp on the cinder blocks like they did to Dean last week, but this time Roman fights his way out of it, and he hits Seth with the Superman punch. He tosses Kane over the barricade into the crowd, and then he picks up one of the cinder blocks and he attempts to murder Seth Rollins with it by like throwing it at his head, and Seth gets out of the way, and the cinder block crashes into like 100 pieces on the ring post, and later on they show a big chunk of it that flew over to the announcer's table. I'm sure the announcers loved that, having fucking cinder block pieces.
Checked on Jerry. A piece of it must have hit Jerry because like they were checking to see if he was okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nice to see that this week when they're going to chuck a freaking cinder block into a steel pole. And you know that pieces are going to fly everywhere, and you have not too far from the ringside a whole bunch of fans.
Yeah.
And you hit poor Jerry, who's got a weak heart as it is.
Yeah,
silly, especially for a babyface to do this. I thought it's a coward's move. You don't do that. And
yeah, especially when
I'm getting bored with Roman Reigns as it is, because it's like the only thing I'm seeing with Roman Reigns is his push, his signature moves, and him cocking up his damn fist all the time.
he does that a lot.
And every now and again, he does the gorilla howl, ooh, or whatever, or the Marine howl, or whatever. I think it's Marines do the ooh. That's what he does.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I'm losing it with Roman Reigns. I'm not getting behind it.
Well, I feel like we've talked about it the last couple episodes. I feel like, he's just it seems like he's just going out and just doing what they tell him to do, and he's not really adding anything of his own to it. I mean, I give him credit because if you look at how he was when the Shield first debuted versus how he is now, he's improved fucking vastly. I mean, he's much better in the ring. He's much better on the microphone. It seems like he's really put a lot of work in and really improved his game. But the last few months, it seems like he's just been on a plateau. Like he hasn't gotten any better for the last couple of months, which is a problem because the last couple of months has been when they've really ramped up that push to get him ready to be a top guy. And it seems like he's just coasting. Mm-hmm. And that's not a good place to be in, especially when you've got a guy like Dean Ambrose who is fucking killing it every chance he gets. Like if they give Dean 5 minutes on TV, he is going to fucking make it the best part of the show if it kills him. And Roman doesn't seem like he's quite got that same level of energy,
Which is a shame. It is, but I just don't feel the fire. I don't feel the fire in his interviews. And like you just said, I mean, for the last couple of months since the push, it seems like we're just getting a carbon copy of every single show. And nothing really new. He's not innovative.
Yeah. Yeah, he needs to change something up, or I mean, they need to get one like really fucking phenomenal match out of him. I mean, just something to kind of get a little bit of spark back into it, because as it is, it just seems like, well, Roman Reigns is going to be the next top guy because we said so, and you're just going to fucking like it.
That's usually how they work.
Yeah. Yeah, until someone like, CM Punk or Daniel Bryan or somebody comes along and the fans give them no fucking choice but to push an actual interesting guy. Which who knows, maybe that'll happen with Dean. I get the feeling Dean Ambrose is right on the bubble of something like that happening, where if the fans get the sense that they're going to start moving Dean off to the side, maybe a groundswell of support could get behind him, because, I mean, to me, he's obviously the next guy. Like, I don't see how anybody... I get why they like Roman Reigns. I like Roman Reigns, too. He's got a great look. He's young. He's got a great heritage, good size. No reason not to like Roman Reigns, but man, if you ask me who I think who they should be getting ready to be the next fucking superstar, it's Dean Ambrose. I don't even have to think about it.
That's a tough chant, because you could chant Dean, but it's boring. Ambrose doesn't come off the tongue very, very well, and neither does Lunatic Fringe. So you got to find some way to get a chant. I guess let's go Ambrose, but then you get the opposite. Let's go Rollins.
Yeah. I don't know. I never really liked the Lunatic Fringe as a nickname for Dean anyway. A Lunatic Fringe has to be more than one person. You can't have a one-man Lunatic Fringe. Next, there was a promo by the Wyatt family backstage in their black room. And Bray cuts a promo on John Cena ahead of their match on Raw tonight. He says that Cena's shell has cracked, and now he stumbles around like a wounded animal. But since Bray Wyatt is a man of mercy, he will put John Cena down. So, not a bad promo from Bray, but just the same sort of stuff that he does a lot. And leading into a match that I think we both kind of had some problems with, but we'll talk about that when we get there. The next match was actually Los Matadores versus Heath Slater and Titus O'Neil. I really like the team of Heath Slater and Titus O'Neil. I hope that this isn't the thing that they just fucking forget about in a couple of weeks, because I feel like these two guys could be a lot of fun working together as like the bickering tag team partners.
Slater Gator. Slater Gator. They kept referring to him as.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun match. I mean, I like the psychology where Heath would almost fuck things up. Like, he would stop paying attention, and one of the Matadors would almost get across to the ring for the tag, and Heath would have to run over and grab him and pull him back, and then Titus would tag himself in and be like the fucking big monster and take over and get things back under control. and then tag Heath back in, and Heath would fuck it up again. I thought that was a lot of fun, and that's how it ended up getting the finish. The Los Matadores won when one of them I couldn't keep track of which one, but Slater gets rolled up with a crucifix for the pin, and Slater Gator loses the match. But I think those two could be a lot of fun as a tag team. I hope that they stick with it for a little while.
I agree. I mean, I've always liked the idea of two guys teaming up, and they don't really care too much about each other. They don't like each other. It's just kind of teaming up out of necessity because obviously they got nothing else for them to do. And you see the bickering and trying to one up one another. And eventually, yeah, but Heath Slater does his thing, and Titus gets a little antsy and tags himself in and is like, now watch what I can do. Yeah. Which I like. And then they bicker and get upset with each other when they lose, like they did after this match. So yeah, I think it has potential. I always liked Titus O'Neil. I thought when him and Darren Young split up, I thought Titus had a bright future, but obviously he's too black.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I thought the same. I've always thought that with Heath Slater, that he's got a lot of talent. They should do something with him. So, to me, it's just keeping two people employed and throwing them together. Hey, can I mention Big Show and Mark Henry? I mean, at least that one makes sense, though. Why not?
Right.
Why not Mark Henry and Titus O'Neil, and then Big Show and Heath Slater?
There you go. Slater Show.
Yeah, Slater Show.
Slater Show. Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, those stories of two guys just getting thrown together for nothing else to do turn out to actually work. Like they kind of did that back 10 years ago. They did that with Goldust and Booker T. They wound up actually being a pretty cool team. And Team Hell No. They threw together Daniel Bryan and Kane, and both guys wound up getting something from that. So hopefully, if they give Slater and Titus some attention, and give them a chance to succeed, that they might actually get something out of it too. Because I agree, I love both guys, and I especially love Titus O'Neil. For a company like WWE that loves big guys, I cannot believe they can't think of anything else for Titus O'Neil to do, because he is huge. He has a great physique. He's fucking scary as hell looking, and he can talk.
He's entertaining as hell.
He's entertaining as hell.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He's got that, which I love. I
yes.
love that.
Like, what the fuck? What is so fucking hard about this? Like, I mean, I love Heath Slater, but what the fuck is Titus O'Neil doing in some thrown together bullshit tag team with Heath Slater? Why is he not fucking? Why aren't you getting him ready to fight Brock?
That stuff works, man. It's the simple shit that works. What? I said it's the simple stuff that works. What? That's what I'm talking about.
And that's probably the fucking best example of that ever. You think that Steve Austin can't get anything over if he wants to? He fucking takes some bullshit, what, and turns it into like the biggest catchphrase of that fucking time period. I remember that. It was, and they still fucking say it. Mm-hmm. Steve Austin hasn't been on TV for like a year. I mean, he showed up once at WrestleMania. That's the first time he's been on WWE TV in forever, and they still fucking say what when they're bored with somebody's promo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the things that have stood the test of time is Steve Austin's what? ECW.
Yeah.
What's some other ones that have some other chants that just don't like? I think those are the two that really take you back.
Yeah, those are the two big ones. Well, I mean, every once in a while, not so much at WWE shows anymore, but every once in a while you can catch them. They'll chant "You fucked up" if there's like a really bad botch in a match. No, they don't do it so much anymore, but every once in a while they'll still try to get one of those started. Next on Raw was Kofi Kingston versus Bo Dallas, and man, this was a fucking short one. Blink and you'll miss this one. Bo wins with the Bo Dog, and then he takes his victory lap, and he gets on the mic and says, "Don't worry, Kofi. Unlike Jack Swagger, who let down his entire country, you only let yourself down. But you both just have to leave." And then before he can leave the ring, Swagger runs in and fucking slams him from behind and knocks Bo out and then walks away holding his ribs. So it looks like they're definitely going for Bo versus Swagger, which I think could be good.
Yeah, I think so too. It's nice to see Kofi out there on the losing end of another match when he had a lot of potential a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, really.
And of course, Bo, I'm not a believer. I'm not, but I am finding, I am at least at this point finding mildly entertaining. You know,
Yeah.
I do like it. I do like his ability in the ring, and you know, he's a great performer. He just reminds me so much when he cuts a promo because Bray was there first, really. I mean, obviously Bo was there a few years ago with a little minor stint, but Bray's made a huge impact, and it's like every time he gets the mic, I can't help it. It's like, it's your brothers, I can tell. He does the same dramatic pauses and everything, you know, in his speeches.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But luckily he got the physique.
Yeah.
He got his daddy's physique.
Right. Bray got the mouth and Bo got the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't be that bad. I don't know which one I would want because the mouth, I think, can sell the body. The mouth will.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think, I mean, even though Bo is more, like, you look at Bo, he looks more traditionally like the guy you would think of as being, like, the great worker. But I think Bray, for his size and his physique, I think Bray's matches have been a lot more exciting and have been a lot better than Bo's. Not that Bo has really had a chance to show what he can do, and he had some good matches in NXT. But, I mean, in terms of just, I mean, if you ask me whose match would I rather watch, just based purely on their work in the ring, I would say Bray without even having to think about it. Speaking of Bray, it's time for the advertised main event. I say advertised main event because they actually had another match for the main event, but we'll talk about that in a second. John Cena versus Bray Wyatt. We talked about this for a second before we went on the air here, Doc. Bray has just regained a little smidgen of momentum by beating Chris Jericho in convincing fashion at SummerSlam, so why not feed him to John Cena right away? Right?
Exactly. How smart is that? And doesn't he still have a match with Chris Jericho still coming up?
I would think.
Another one, you know, where I said he should ultimately destroy Chris Jericho. I don't think that's going to happen now. I mean, Bray, oh, wow. He must have had an off night or something, or sister, his sister, Abeline or Apple
Aberdeen.
or Listerine or I don't know what her name is. But obviously
she was sleeping on the job.
Yeah, obviously not in his corner tonight. So unfortunately,
they basically tried to do like a redo or a mirror, I guess, of Cena versus Brock, only with Cena throwing Bray around instead of Brock throwing Cena around. And it just didn't work for me at all. I mean, it didn't work for me because I don't think they should be doing that with Bray, because Bray's been beat up enough. And, I mean, it just felt like he just was kind of starting to get back on top with Jericho, and now it's like, oh, fuck, John Cena's going to make him look like, is going to throw him around like a 5-year-old. I don't fucking get that. Well, I'll talk a little bit more about what they're doing with Cena after we get through the rest of this match. But Harper and Rowan end up running in for the DQ, so this match gets thrown out. But then when we get back from the commercial break, Big Show and Mark Henry have run out to help John fight off the Wyatt family, and they turn it into a 6-man. So the actual main event of the show is a 6-man with John Cena and Big Show and Mark Henry versus all 3 members of the Wyatt family. I have no idea why they didn't just book this match to begin with. I guess they thought maybe if they advertised Cena versus Bray, they would get more of a rating, but I don't really know if it made that much of a difference. But it ended up being the 6-man, and they did with Big Show and Henry working most of the match, and then Cena gets tagged in at the end and takes out Eric Rowan, takes down Luke Harper, puts him in the STF, and gets the tap out, so the babyface team wins by submission. And then after the match, Cena gives the attitude adjustment to everybody. Hits Bray with one, hits Harper with one, hits Rowan with one, and the show ends with John Cena, holding up his arms in the ring, looking like a world killer, like basically he's been for the last 10 years.
I'm coming after you next, Brock. You're next, Brock. I'm coming after you. That's right, because he kept like looking into the camera, saying how much I'm coming to get you, Brock. I'm going to come get you. You're next.
Yeah, I mean, here's the problem I have, right, with the way they're booking Cena with this. If they wanted to go this direction with John Cena eventually, I think it would be fine. I mean, if they wanted to do the Rocky 3 push where John Cena gets fucking killed and then he has to come back and find a way to beat Brock in the big rematch, I think that would be fine. I would prefer it not be this month. I prefer they hold it off for a little while. But whatever. But let's just assume, okay, Brock versus Cena at Night of Champions in about a month from now. Why not have Cena have to slowly build his way back up to a dominant wrestler? Why not have him wrestle this week and have it be like a much more competitive match where he's still trying to get his confidence back?
Yeah,
And
that's what I would have done. Broke his spirit, like Brock broke his spirit.
Yeah.
He's got to get that back. Like when Shawn Michaels lost his smile.
Right. Exactly. Except John's still coming to work. Yeah, I mean, I just why? Because now it's like the same shit they always do with John Cena, where he gets beat and he comes back, and it's like it don't make any difference. Nothing affects him. I mean, he came back and he was John Cena again. Like Brock Lesnar fucking killed him and humiliated him, and he took a week off and came back, and it's like it never happened. You know?
Yeah, the beatdown he gave to Bray Wyatt was just embarrassing. It made Bray Wyatt look horrible that he took that beating. I understand why they brought the rest of everybody down, because they didn't want to make the whole thing look one-sided. They wanted to let the Wyatts look like they had something. Although it wasn't much on Monday. It didn't have a whole lot.
No, they did not.
Main event wise, it did not satisfy me at all. I mean, I woke up in time to watch this main event, just to know when I saw John Cena beating the living shit out of Bray Wyatt that I wasn't interested anymore. I just wasn't. It was an atrocity to the eyes, a miscarriage of justice, if you will. Thank you, Gorilla Monsoon.
Yes, I agree. And it's like one of the things that made the Brock match at SummerSlam so interesting was that it was so different, because it wasn't John Cena, the unbeatable superhero.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like, oh yes, it is. John Cena is the unbeatable superhero again. Everybody, he just fucking threw Bray Wyatt around like he was some fucking enhancement talent. I just don't get having Cena take a week off and then come back and he's invincible again. I mean, at least have him have to kind of get his confidence back, have him build back up to that point. At least then there's some drama to it. There's no drama to this. It's just always John Cena again, everybody.
Yeah, he recognizes the ass whooping he took, and I mean, it'd have been perfect to write in the he has doubt that he'd be able to do it, and he doesn't know for the first time in his career, he might just give up. He might be thinking about giving up, and let the fans pour their hearts out. Like, we want Cena, no, let the fans build him back up.
Right.
Not so quick. I know that the WWE moves at like 24 or 60 miles an hour these days, or 100 miles an hour these days with their storylines, but they do show time and time again that they can get storylines right by drawing them out. And I think this is way too soon, and I'm still holding the feeling that if they're really going to, at the next pay-per-view, Night of the Champions, do the whole Brock Lesnar, John Cena again, the only logical thing in my mind would be to Brock finish off the job.
I hope you're right. I mean, I hope you're right. I just have a real bad feeling that they're just going to go, well, that was nice. It wasn't that fun having Brock be a monster for a month. Here's John Cena again, everybody. I mean, because they have this track record for the last few years of giving us the start of what feels like a fucking exciting program where you're like, oh shit, this is going to be like Austin 316 all over again. And then they completely shoot themselves in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
And they eventually, it took them like forever, they eventually got it right with Daniel Bryan, but then he got hurt. So it's like that fucking sucks. Like they finally did the right thing, and then he hurts himself. So
because he's a B player.
Yeah, exactly. Because Triple H never got hurt.
Yeah,
Triple H never got hurt.
Shoot, I remember when Triple H got hurt. That was vicious, because you saw that muscle just shred right off the damn knee.
Oh God, yeah.
And for him to finish the match, I mean, he got tons of credit or respect from me that day to finish that shit.
Totally, no kidding, and it was a great match. Yeah, but like I remember when they started Nexus, and they had Nexus come out and fucking kill John Cena and like tear the ring down, and I mean, everybody was like, "Holy shit, this is awesome!" And within a month, the whole Nexus thing was fucking dead, because Cena came back and beat everybody, and Wade Barrett looked like he was going to be a star fucking 4 years ago, and John Cena beat him in the blow-off match, and it was like, fuck, forget that, CM Punk, right, walks out of the company with the title, comes back like a couple of weeks later, like they completely shoot themselves in the foot for that. And Punk still ended up being a fucking huge star, and he became a main eventer out of it, but still, it's like everybody was talking about, holy shit, CM Punk won the WWE title, and he just left. And instead of holding off on a few months for that, they brought him right back. You know, and it feels like this is another one of those things where it's like they have a chance with Brock to do something different, to do something that's going to be really exciting, and they're just going to say, no, let's just have Cena beat him again right away. I hope that's not what happens. I hope that you're right, Doc, and that it ends with Brock beating him again, and they go in another direction. But I don't know. I have a real bad feeling.
Or at least, you know, at least he invokes his rematch clause, but he may win the match. He's not getting out with the belt. I don't think the belt should go back to him. But at least kind of, if you're going to want to redeem him that way.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I am at least I'm interested to see what will happen. But I have a real bad feeling that I know what's going to happen. Well, hey, speaking of, before we get to our Legend of the Week, which is a good one as always, I had one random topic to talk about. It's something that was actually talked about on our Facebook group and has been mentioned in the internet wrestling community for the last couple of weeks, which is this talk from Hulk Hogan that he wants to have one more match.
Yeah.
What the fuck's going on with that?
I don't know. I mean, he's been working out, and then the whole Brock Lesnar thing coming down, and I even said this on one of our shows that please don't let this happen. Don't ever let this happen. Do never let Brock Lesnar wrestle Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Because he'd kill him. But then he does Brock Lesnar goes off script, calls him an old man.
Yeah.
And of course Hulk Hogan takes the TMZ airing his dirty laundry, and that's what Hulk Hogan does. He will maneuver himself and manipulate the media to get the word out, to try to maneuver himself back into a wrestling or top stage position. This is what Hulk Hogan does. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't care how much he works out. It would be a huge freaking mistake, man. It's a lot of people busted on Ric Flair for just staying in the business as long as he did. Even though Ric Flair was healthy, he could work, and he was a great performer. He wasn't getting injured all the time. Hulk Hogan, on the other hand, didn't take hardly any bumps in his fucking career. I mean, he really didn't have to do a whole lot physicality-wise, because he was a fairly simple, straightforward wrestler. A carbon copy from back in the 80s. He's a throwback, and he's the same guy. Yeah. And how he fucked his body up, and I know how he fucked his body up. I don't know how he fucked me because he in 1993 or the court case where he admits he took steroids. Right. I mean steroids, and don't take steroids, kids, because they're bad for you. They shrink your testicles, and they give you bad acne, give you temper flares, and it's just not a good thing. And don't try them. Plus, you might end up in court having to testify against him. But that's what really caused superstar Billy Graham. His hip issues was all the steroids he took back in the day. So he has no hip, and same thing with Hulk Hogan, man. It's like always injecting that shit down there in your ass, and it fucked things up. And that's exactly what's happening to Hogan, because it cannot be the physicality of his wrestling career.
Yeah, I think the whole thing is crazy. I think and it sounds like Hogan just is a crazy old man just running his mouth, because I mean he claims that the back feels great, brother, because that was supposedly that was like the big medical issue that kept him from wrestling all this time, is that his back was just fucked, and now he's like, the back feels great, brother. Okay, well, take a bump on it, see how it feels. I mean, it might feel great when you're walking around or when you're just doing some fucking weightlifting, but I mean, do a back bump in a wrestling ring once and see how the fucking back feels.
Oh, I don't take bumps, brother. I don't take bumps.
Yeah, exactly.
I fall down to my ass. I don't take bumps.
Maybe, and it was all that falling on his ass that fucked his back up to begin with. Maybe he should have been taking some fucking bumps on his back.
All them damn leg drops. He only dropped like 2 billion leg drops in his lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, and my whole thing is, okay, if he's in such great shape and he's ready to go, like he could actually have a match with somebody, like a major pay-per-view match, then why hasn't anybody touched him the whole time he's been back? Nobody's laid a finger on him. He hasn't taken a punch. He hasn't taken a bump. No, there's been no physical stuff. Nobody has been touching Hogan at all. And wouldn't you think if Vince McMahon got Hulk Hogan back and Hulk Hogan was healthy and was able, maybe not ready to work a match, but was at least healthy enough to be able to do some stuff in the ring, that he would be doing something? I mean, nobody has fucking laid a finger on him since he came back. That tells me that he's actually he's not in such great shape as he would like people to believe. That it's just Hulk Hogan talking a bunch of shit out of his ass like he always does.
And WWE is at a point where they appreciate that he's been around because they know everything he's done. The name is synonymous with WWE, Hulk Hogan. But they realize it and really don't want Hulk Hogan to wrestle. They don't want. We got better things to do here. Have you seen our cast of characters? We don't need you, Hulk Hogan. It's just it's nice to have you around. You're collecting a paycheck because you need that paycheck, and you can get licensing and T-shirts and all that stuff. So you'll see royalties from that. But it's just so you're employed, man. But you don't need to go out there and strap up the boots, dude. Don't kill yourself over it. You got a nice cushy job, so don't even fucking think about it, Hogan. Terry, come on. Back to reality, Terry. Don't do it. Don't even think about it, brother.
I agree. Even if he was healthy, they shouldn't be even thinking about it. They have, like you say, they have fucking better things to do than put Hulk Hogan in a match again in fucking 2014. Well, speaking of legends, let's talk about our Legend of the Week because we've got a really great tag team for our Legend of the Week. Tell us about our Legends of the Week, I should say.
Our Legends of the Week. We were talking about at heights. One stood at 6 foot 3 inches. One stood at 6 foot 2 inches. They weighed in at a total combined weight of 514 pounds. I'm talking about the people from South Philly Posse, from the Public Enemy, Rocco Rock, and Johnny Grunge, baby. The Public Enemy. A great tag team back in the day, and although they really didn't last too long in the wrestling scene, they were really just a blip on the map. Didn't make a huge impact. If you're an ECW fan, you knew who the Public Enemy was, and you even knew who they were if you actually watched a little bit of WCW or WWF for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But the Public Enemy was a professional wrestling tag team consisting of Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge. The duo competed in many promotions, including ECW, WCW, the NWA, and World Wrestling Federation, and they won World Tag Team Championships in every company except the WWF. Their name was taken from the rap group of the same name, and prior to becoming a team, Rocco Rock and Johnny Grunge had a long-standing feud on the independent circuit. In addition, they two wrestled each other under their former ring names, which was the Cheetah Kid and Johnny Rotten, in a dark match at the first TV tapings of WWF Monday Night Raw on January 11, 1993. 8 months before they would debut as the tag team in ECW. In September 2002, we'll get to that later. I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead.
Okay.
Let's talk ECW. In 1993 to 1996, the Public Enemy made their ECW debut in September 1993 at Ultra Clash, as Booker Paul Heyman gave them the gimmick of white guys who embraced and loved the growing hip-hop culture of America. Heyman had stated that he had got the inspiration to create the Public Enemy from a Newsweek article about the culture changes occurring in America and the difficulty for young men living in places like Los Angeles during the early 1990s, with a quote that stated, "The generation of today is more afraid of living than dying." I'm going to fix this right now.
Okay.
That did not work.
Uh-oh. He's in hell, and he can't escape.
Come back to me, baby.
There he is.
Thank you. I'm back. Part 2. Well, the team quickly became one of the more popular acts in ECW. Their wild brawling style, complete with a myriad of foreign objects and the inclusion of tables, made them one of the most feared teams in the company. And it wasn't long before they won their first of 4 ECW Tag Team Championships. As the Public Enemy was embraced by the majority of fans, Heyman was inspired to bring in the Gangstas, which was New Jack and Mustafa Saeed from Smoky Mountain Wrestling, to feud with the Public Enemy. The Gangstas immediately began a long and bloody feud with the Public Enemy, which pitted the Gangstas' harsh, gritty West Coast gangster lifestyle against the Public Enemy's East Coast feel-good style. Their feud is among the feuds most often cited as classic ECW. Some of the great, memorable ECW moments, the Public Enemy was involved in some of ECW's most memorable moments. One of them was during a singles match between Cactus Jack and Terry Funk at ECW Hardcore Heaven 1994. The Public Enemy interfered and attacked both wrestlers. Terry Funk turned to the crowd and asked the fans if he could have a chair to use. A fan immediately threw a chair into the ring, and not long after, many other fans followed suit. Eventually, the ring was filled with chairs, with both members of the Public Enemy buried underneath. And if you've seen any ECW clips, you've seen this clip.
Yeah.
And in another incident in Tampa, Florida, towards the end of their run with ECW, the Public Enemy asked fans to come into the ring to dance with them one last time. As more and more fans piled in and onto the ring, all dancing and celebrating, the ring actually collapsed. An ECW house party in 1999, January 10th, Public Enemy made a long-awaited and much-hyped return to the ECW arena in order to answer the challenge of the Dudley Boys. At the time, they were still under contract to WCW, but they successfully brawled with assistance from New Jack with the Dudleys. Following the showdown, Johnny Grunge grabbed the microphone and claimed that the past 3 years had been a roller coaster ride for the team, and that if you opened up their chest and looked into their hearts, there's only one thing stamped on it, and that's ECW. In 1996 to 1998, we found a team in WCW. They joined it in January of 1996 after their success in ECW. The Public Enemy signed on to work. When they arrived in WCW, they continued acting as they did in the manner that made them so popular with fans. Although the majority of WCW fan base was unfamiliar with the ECW product at the time, they still carried tables to the ring. Due to the lack of the rest of their style, they seemed out of place and floundered in WCW. During the 3-year stint, they won their only WCW World Tag Team Championship with a victory over Harlem Heat in September of 1996. Though their reign only lasted for 8 days. Want to talk about something actually worse than having a belt for 8 days? Let's talk about their career in 1999 and World Wrestling Federation. Yeah. The Public Enemy signed with the WWF in early of 1999. They were not accepted backstage by veteran WWF wrestlers and backstage personnel. However, due to animosity over the fact that the Public Enemy chose WCW over the WWF when the two companies were pursuing the tag team in late 1995, Rocco Rock was also forced to change his name and go by the shortened name Flyboy Rocco in order not to cause confusion with The Rock. They made their WWF debut on the February 22nd, 1999 episode of Raw is War, and 2 months. In the 2 months they lasted in the WWF, their only feud was against the Acolytes. Following the feud and the Public Enemy's subsequent release, the APA claimed that they ran the Public Enemy out of the WWF. They said that they could do the same to any other ECW tag team, which included the Dudley Boys, and the Dudley Boys were pretty much coming in at that time. John Bradshaw Layfield elaborated that much of the animosity toward the Public Enemy was due to them being brought into the company by Terry Taylor, who had his own backstage issues with much of the wrestlers, including the Acolytes. They had also desired to change the planned finish of a match, which was them being driven through tables by the Acolytes, and then the Acolytes were actually instructed only to ensure that the match went through as it was originally planned, and they did that. Later activity with the Public Enemy, they returned to WCW after leaving the WWF, with both men involved in the WCW Hardcore Junkyard Invitational. They then made an appearance on the August 8, 1999 episode of WCW Thunder, and a squash match loss against Bill Goldberg. And again on August 9th, in a losing effort against the West Texas Rednecks. I missed Mr. Perfect. Neither member returned to WCW programming afterwards, and the Public Enemy made one last appearance on ECW when it was on TNN, which was their last exposure on mainstream television. The tag team made brief appearances on the independent scene after both WCW and ECW folded, appearing in ECW nostalgia promotions like 3PW, along with various NWA territories. They also participated in the unaired tapings of Ex-Wrestling Federation promotion under the name South Philly Posse, and they were managed by Jasmine Sinclair. And early 2000, Public Enemy performed for the short-lived I-Generation Superstars of Wrestling, among other independent promotions. The team won various independent tag team titles. On September 21st of 2002, Ted Petty, also known as Flyboy Rocco Rock, died after suffering a heart attack following a wrestling event. Johnny Grunge had been semi-retired for a few years after the XWF failed to get a TV deal. On February 16, 2006, Mike Durham, also known as Johnny Grunge, died in his home after suffering from complications from sleep apnea. A friend tried to get Durham to the hospital in time, but by the time they arrived at the hospital, Durham had died and was pronounced dead on arrival. The finishing moves, of course, were the drive-by. Johnny or Grunge would throw his rock into an assisted somersault senton. So that was actually pretty cool. Managers, they were managed by Jasmine St. Clair. They used to come down to "Here Comes the Hot Stepper" in ECW, which was pretty cool. Here come the hot stepper, turn it up, I'm the lyrical gangster, turn it up. But like I said, they didn't really have a lot of exposure as Public Enemy on TV. I believe it was Rocco Rock who was originally known as the Cheetah Kid. So they had some different gimmicks back in the day. But that is my 2 cents on our Legends of the Week. Like I said, there's not much written about them. I could probably look up a little bit more if I had to, but we're running short on time. So, with that said, that's my Legends of the Week. The Public Enemy. Back to you, Steve.
I think it's good that we talk about guys like these because we talk a lot about the guys who were legends in the 70s and the 80s and in the early 90s, and Rocco and Johnny are probably the best example ever of what a great booker Paul Heyman was, because those guys probably would never have gotten over with anybody else booking their matches. I mean, Paul Heyman knew what they could do and what they couldn't do, and he was smart enough to put them in a position where they were only able to do what they were good at, and the stuff that they were bad at they didn't have to worry about. He hid their weaknesses and he showcased their strengths, and he took 2 guys that maybe wouldn't have really been a big deal in another promotion, and people look back on the original ECW and Public Enemy, they're a big part of that, and they actually had some pretty entertaining matches because they were booked in a way that they were able to do what they were good at, and they didn't have to do what they were bad at, and they're a great example of that. And it's a shame that they both died so young, and it's a shame that they never really got over in a bigger company than ECW after they had that ECW run. But again, I think it's just an example of what a talented booker Paul Heyman was, how he knew exactly how to use them. Nobody else really knew how to use them. Let's do our network recommendations. Doc, what is your WWE network recommendation?
Well, the reason I like to pick someone, if I can find them on the WWE Network, I'd like to pick a show that features our Legends of the Week. And I found one. And not only did I find that, there's something else that it has in common. CWW, or the WWE Network, is starting up the Monday Night Wars series. Well, this pay-per-view that I chose this week, my network recommendation, features the Public Enemy, but it also features the thing that turned the wars upside down, really gave WCW that advantage, and that is the creation of the NWO. And I'm talking about 1996's Bash at the Beach. So, and we all know what happened at the end. We had that tag team match with the Outsiders, Kevin Nash and Scott Hall. They were facing off against Randy Savage and Lex Luger, and they were supposed to have a third partner who didn't show up, and it turned out to be Hulk Hogan, and that started the NWO, which was awesome. Other matches, Conan faced off against Ric Flair for the United States Heavyweight Championship. Disco Inferno faced off against Dean Malenko for the WCW Cruiserweight Championship. Big Bubba Rogers with Jimmy Hart faced off against John Tenta, who is Earthquake, if you're not aware of that, in a Carson City Silver Dollar match, whatever the fuck that is. And, of course, the Public Enemy faced off against the Nasty Boys in a double dog collar match. That's and it opens up the great match between Rey Mysterio and Psychosis. And we were talking about that before the show, of how much we really missed those Cruiserweight and Lucha Libre days from WCW, because they definitely had a roster where they could present that type of wrestling. So check that out. Watch Rey Mysterio in his heyday, when he was allowed to go up with guys that were on equal caliber as his ability. So Bash at the Beach 1996. Check it out.
Yeah, that's a great show. That's obviously it's a really historic show, but it's a good show on its own merit too. Great pick. My recommendation, speaking of ECW, my recommendation is actually the first WWE ECW pay-per-view. It was sort of the revival of ECW. It was the first ECW one-night stand in 2005. This is one of my favorite pay-per-views ever, and I wasn't even like a huge ECW fan, but this is such a great show. It's easily the best nostalgia show ever put on. I mean, this was when ECW had been out of commission for like 5 or 6 years at this point, but people still loved ECW. They would still chant for old ECW guys when they saw them. So WWE had put out some DVDs of ECW that were like bestsellers. So they said, fuck it, we're going to put on an ECW pay-per-view. And it was a huge hit. It was a big critical success and a big commercial success. Got a big buy rate. So it eventually wound up with them actually bringing ECW back as a TV show for a few years that nobody really liked, but they at least knew that ECW was popular enough based on this pay-per-view that it was worth trying to bring back. And on this show, just a great classic nostalgic ECW lineup. Lance Storm versus Chris Jericho, which is also kind of a throwback to Smoky Mountain. A three-way dance with Super Crazy, Tajiri, and Little Guido. Rey Mysterio versus Psychosis. There's a fucking hell of a match. Sabu versus Rhino. Chris Benoit versus Eddie Guerrero. Those two guys probably came to the attention of American wrestling fans in ECW before they had their WCW runs and had great matches with each other. Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka had so many great matches against each other.
That was a hell of a match,
original ECW. Yeah, and this was a hell of a match. And then the main event, a tag team match, the Dudley Boys versus Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman. A fucking awesome old school ECW match. Just a great show from top to bottom. One of my favorite pay-per-views. And speaking of the Public Enemy and ECW, this, even though technically this isn't an original ECW show, this is a WWE show. Still, if you're a fan of ECW from back in the 90s, it's hard to imagine you not loving the shit out of this show. So the original ECW One Night Stand from 2005, that's my recommendation. Now, before we get out of here, Doc, do you have any idea who our Legend of the Week next week is going to be?
Not really, but I'm just going to pick one out of the hat. Not always do we have to do a wrestler, because you just mentioned this pay-per-view, and
yeah,
and I have to talk about a wrestler whose manager, I'm going to say Sabu, and I think we all know who his manager was. But
yeah.
if you think that Bill Alfonso was just a referee, just the manager, well, you're in for a treat, because next week's Legend, I'm talking about the whistling, the annoying whistling cocksucker from ECW, Bill Alfonso.
Excellent. Well, tune in for that, everybody. That's going to be fun. I remember Bill Alfonso. Yeah, a referee and a very distinctive manager. Fucking annoyed. Always used to annoy the piss out of me.
Shut that whistle down his throat.
I know, right? Awesome. So the Legend next week is Bill Alfonso. Thank you, everybody, as always, for watching. Doc, thank you, as always, for joining me. We talked about wrestling so damn much, we actually went like 10 minutes over time. But fuck it, who cares?
That's right.
We don't need to eat.
Well, my food's not here yet. My wife just sent me a text, and she's doing her last load of laundry now, and she's going to grab some chicken, and she's coming home. So, but by the way, fans, get over to our Facebook page. Get over to our Facebook page, Wrestling with Wrestling, and like us there. And
Yes,
in case you missed the show, I always will change the profile to show who's next week Legend will be. And if you haven't downloaded it yet, I do definitely recommend checking out the new WWE app. It's free to download, and it's pretty cool, but it's called Supercard, so you can't really see it right there, but I have it loaded on my phone, and it's free, so it's pretty cool. So check it out, and it like I said, free, won't cost you $9.99. So that's just a few of my recommendations outside of that, and I'm done. I'll shut up now.
Awesome. I hear that is a fun game. I haven't played it yet, but I hear that is a fun game. A lot of people say they really like it.
I'm 10-1. So I've only lost one match, but I've won 10 of them so far.
There you go. It pays to be a wrestling fan for your whole life. You get the little advantages in the game. Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with us for our extra long, supersized edition of Wrestling with Wrestling this week. We'll be back to talk about all this shit again next week. As always, we appreciate it, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, guys. Always bring the noise.